Okay, so fucking Forgotten Weapons again. Curiously perched you there. How does a shorter barrel length or longer barrel length affect actual performance of a rifle on a meat target? That is the question that was being asked, basically. I would refer you to the M16A2 barrel versus carbine barrel video thing that Paul Harrell did. I think that pretty effectively makes the point that I'm going to make. But I think he compared like an 11.5 and a 20. I like 20-inch barrels on M16s because of what 5.56 ammunition was doing in Vietnam. I still shoot 55 grain ammo for the most part. I still think a 20-inch barrel is best. And here's my reasoning for that. Like, I run a lot of 16s because it is the sweet spot that gets you a lot of shit. But in reality, I think the 20 is probably the better way to go. And the reasoning for this is range. Like, the barrel length on an M16 is your effective range. And it strikes me odd that Forgotten Weapons wouldn't know this, basically. But, like, the difference in effective range between, like, an M16 and an M4 is pretty substantial, really. Like, for, like, shooting a man once in the chest and expecting him to die, you're probably cutting that range in half. If you're going to, like, an 11.5 over a 20. Versus, like, you know, if you go into, like, a 16-inch, there's not as much of an effectiveness. And, like, the reason that it's disproportionate is powder burn is a weird thing, right? So, in a shorter barrel, like a 7-inch barrel, the issue isn't that the barrel's shorter, it's that all the powder doesn't burn. Making the barrel longer is one of several options to make all the powder burn. I don't know that you could design a 5.56 cartridge for a 7-inch barrel. That just is a little, it's ridiculous. It's too short. But that's why you're adding extra barrel. And the more speed that you put on a projectile dramatically affects the performance of that projectile in flesh. You need cavitation and explosion with a 5.56, right? In order to get that, the bullet has to be going 2,900, 3,000 feet per second. 28 maybe. The range at which those shorter barrels stop doing that is inside 100 yards. Like a 14.5, it probably is right at 100 yards. The 16, you're maybe getting an extra 100 yards, 200 yards maybe even. Like, that's the difference between an 11.5 inch and a 16-inch is huge. The difference between a 16-inch and a 20 is big, but nowhere near as big as the difference between a 16-inch and a fucking 11.5. This is kind of like the real advice of barrel lengths, basically, for AR-15s is get the longest one that you can fucking CQB with effectively. If you're in such cramped quarters that you need a fucking 10.5-inch barrel, I think that's a real poor choice. And the reason I think it's a real poor choice is because the 11.5 gets you so much more power. Like, it, in addition to a lot of things going with these shorter barrels, it's not just that it's killing your range. At a certain point, it's killing your potential combat effectiveness at point blank range. Right? A 20-inch barrel is better at point blank range than any of the others. Why? Because the projectile is going faster. Because that's how math works. The fucking effect on your target is determined directly by the weight of the projectile times the velocity at which it is traveling. This is like, wait a second, you're saying there's fucking math involved? Yeah. There's fucking math involved. And the relationship of those two numbers gives you a number that you can rank on a scale, basically, as to fucking how much power that gun's going to give you. So let's say a 45 is shooting a 230 grain projectile at 750 feet per second. Okay, multiply those numbers. Oh, that'll give you a number. Okay, do the same thing for a couple other known calibers, and then rank whatever it is that you want to fucking figure out based on those. And what I'm talking to you here now is telling you how to calculate foot-pounds of energy, basically. That's how I determine how much gun I need, basically. And I do that by determining how much given power X historical thing that I know does a thing needs to work, basically. And then I look at, well, how much better can we do that for cheap, basically. So if I can get it more powerful, we're going to have it more powerful. But, like, the reason I carry a 1911 on my hip instead of a 44 Magnum is basically, for most things, that's what I'm going to need. The only time that I would switch out a 45 for, like, a big bore revolver, other than, like, a single action of some sort, would be like being in polar bear country. Makes sense there. Like, 44 Magnum is a polar bear gun. If I lived in Alaska, I might carry a 357. That's like Joe Exotic carrying 357 around all those big cats. Yeah, I'd carry a 357 around them too. There's situations where I would switch it up, but in general, you know, I like my 45. The 45 is better for dealing with people and miscreants and whatever, and the 45 caliber cartridge is based on the cartridge that came out of the Schofield and the Peacemaker and all that. Those cartridges were designed to kill horses. The 1911 is a very powerful handgun. I wouldn't want to shoot at a bear with it. You know? Anyway, we got distracted down a rabbit hole, but that is in a nutshell what happens when you shorten up AR-15 barrels on targets. Okay, if you want to know what this does in meat, think smaller, lesser wounds. At a certain point, standing away from an AR-15, you could shoot me with it, and I will pick the bullet out and laugh at you. It's like, it's a long way away. There's a point where it reaches it, though, and it reaches it a hell of a lot sooner shooting a 7-inch barrel. I think, like, to me, the main issue here is you are retarding your rifle's power at the muzzle in ways that you don't even know. Like, go watch Paul Harrell's video and realize that he's not shooting that far. Really, the Paul Harrell video is what you should go watch. That's what I'm telling you. I'll see you guys later.